Alam nyo, marami nagsasabi, ano bang ginagawa ng mga tao ngayon sa habang sila naka-quarantine? Ito, marami palang ginagawa. We are consuming media in ways that are pretty different from the way that we've been consuming it before. So ito naman ang interview natin again with Jay Bautista ng Kantar Media.
First of all, what is Kantar and what does it do?
Okay, so Kantar Philippines is part of a global network of companies. Our base of operations is in the UK, United Kingdom. I belong to the media division of Kantar, and our main focus is doing research on what we call audience. And that focuses in terms of media consumption. So you have TV ratings, radio listening, out of home, digital consumption. The other aspect of our business focuses on advertising intelligence. So we track the activities of advertisers, how much they spend, where they spend it, and sort of the highs and lows in different markets and industries. So that's the snapshot.
Media consumption in the Philippines pre-quarantine versus quarantine period.
Okay, so
of those
pre-quarantine, these are sort of the top 5 media platforms. So television is number 1, followed by online, digital, followed by out of home, radio, and then print. So that's the top 5 platforms that normal Filipinos would have been consuming before the quarantine was implemented.
Okay. Obviously now that's changed.
Yeah, that's within a matter of days after the quarantine was implemented, we saw a dramatic shift. So if you ask me today what's the top 5 platforms, the top 2 are still there, but TV and online are sort of neck and neck. Out of home has slid way below. Mm-hmm. Print has gone down. So we basically have essentially 3 active platforms: TV, online, and radio.
And it's strange because those aren't necessarily exclusive platforms, because
yes,
TV and both TV and radio have really gone online and
correct
as well.
So there's been a blurring of lines, so to speak, when you talk of channels or platforms. So it's probably more appropriate to describe them as content. So you have linear TV content that's still popular. You have music and news formats, both on radio and online, which may cover publications as well. So two things. In terms of platforms, hard copy publications have essentially disappeared because of distribution issues.
Yes.
Out of home as a platform is non-existent because of the quarantine. So, but content cuts across online, linear TV, and that's music, news, and entertainment.
All right. So let's now take a look at the winners and let's not call them, but those who are most affected. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Biggest winners during this quarantine period as far as media platforms are concerned?
Well, number 1 is linear TV or television. We've seen an increase of about additional 3 million viewers. So pre-quarantine, we had about probably an average of 4 million viewers a day. During the quarantine, that's gone up to almost 7 million viewers.
Jay, you know what? As a media consumer, as a person who just watches TV and listens to radio and all that, when you say 4 million and 7 million, when you use these numbers, are these people watching the same show at the same watching TV all at the same time, or are these people
at any given time during the day? Normally, in the past or before quarantine, you'd have an average of 4 million viewers on TV watching different channels at any given time.
Okay.
Now that we have the quarantine, that number has grown.
This is an aggregate audience at any given time in the day.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. And during quarantine,
So so pre-quarantine it's about 4 million. Now it's almost 7 million.
Okay. Now, Jay, I'm going to ask you because you're watching TV, but do the online OTT providers such as obviously the big gorilla in the room is Netflix. Do they count as TV as well in your world?
Yes. So we also are able to measure the impact of streaming or OTT services. So and not just in the Philippines, but across all the Kantar countries, we've seen Netflix really take off.
Mm-hmm.
We've also seen Spotify take off during the quarantine period. We've seen a lot of other OTT services, like in the Philippines, iFlix provided free access. View, for those who are very fond of Korea-themed content, they become a household name as well recently. And then, of course, there's still the battle of the pay TV providers. So Sky Cable and Signal have also gone into the mix by offering all their usually premium content free, regardless of your tier, whether you're prepaid or postpaid. You get all the channels free for the last 6 weeks now.
So when you say that a person that you've got 7 million people now consuming some form of TV at any given time right now, this is any programming that comes through their screen, their TV screen. So whether
and then you add the other Filipinos who access their content through mobile phones, tablets, or laptops. So essentially, if you add that, our estimate is you're probably gonna reach anywhere from 40 million upwards of Filipinos at any given time of the day, at any given platform or type of content.
This is during quarantine.
During quarantine.
All right, and this has gone up.
And this is just Luzon. I'm not talking about Visayas and Mindanao yet. So,
all because Luzon at this point is
practically holds majority of the 100 million Filipinos in terms of population.
All right. Okay, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay, yeah.
But so you're seeing there's really a lot of consumption of media right now.
Yes, TV and online platforms in particular. Another perspective we can use is the percentage of ratings. Again, total Philippines. Pre-quarantine, the average ratings we get for prime time, for example, is about 30% of the population.
Okay.
So if we have 100 million, about 30 million.
And Jay, what is prime time? What was prime time pre-quarantine?
Okay. Prime time pre-quarantine started at around 7 in the evening until 11.
You're laughing because I think you remember the days when prime time to you, Jay, was watching Vic Morrow and Little House on the Prairie.
Yes.
Combat and
Newswatch. Newswatch was at 5 p.m. back in the day.
Harry Gasser.
The late Harry Gasser.
Yes. And so how about prime time? What is prime time these days? Quarantine.
Well, actually, that's why I was actually smiling, because if you look at the shape of viewing after the or during quarantine, as early as 7 in the morning, you'd already see a lot of viewers tuning in, and that goes on almost throughout the day. But we still have the highest viewing period during the evening, whereas pre-quarantine it was 30%. During quarantine, it reaches more than 40% of the population. So that's almost, as I mentioned earlier, about 40 million Filipinos in the evening would be tuned into normal television or using their television set. So that's been the main difference between the pre-quarantine and the quarantine period.
All right. biggest winners in quarantine?
Yeah. So
By let's say in according to platform, which platform
okay.
has been the biggest winner?
So TV, online, and then radio has gone up significantly, particularly AM, the AM format for news and
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are want to be updated about what's happening with regards to the COVID-19
And Jay,
pandemic.
just for the sake of organizing something in our minds, like
Yes.
this show is a radio show, but it's really
Mhm.
two things at one time. It's a radio show when it's heard
Mhm.
as a broadcast, and that's an audio only product. But
Correct.
we're talking to you right now and showing you through this video interview because it's also an online service right now. So how do you classify?
Correct.
So where does this program, for example, fall
Okay.
under?
So
Because
we
this is
approach it
generally
from a traditional aspect. So when we define radio, it's basically content that's received using either a traditional radio set or through a mobile phone, and particularly purely audio in
okay.
nature.
All right.
So we differentiate that with, for example, a teleradio,
Mm-hmm.
which is both audio and video, but is accessed through your pay TV subscription. So that will
Yeah.
be classified as TV, even if it has the same content as your what you listen to on your radio set or your mobile phone.
And what about the Facebook lives and the YouTube lives?
So the YouTube lives will be defined as an online platform. So it's content that is received or consumed using a digital platform.
All right. Okay. Now we've seen a bump, a very generous bump in terms of media consumption, which ordinarily will mean cause for celebration to advertisers.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
You've got
Correct.
more people,
And also the networks.
and also the networks.
networks.
But you know, how have the advertisers approached this? Have they stopped placing, or are they a winner in this? Because I could imagine that the initial math would tell you if you've got an audience, go for it. But
Yes.
what is going on right now as far as the advertising is concerned?
Okay. So, well, two aspects to that question. I agree with you. Normally, it would be a cause for celebration. And I go back to an example when the Aldab phenomenon was the hottest show in the
Say
country.
it, Jay. That was really your favorite.
Yeah, back in 2015, we got an additional million viewers,
Mm-hmm.
and the advertisers really took it upon themselves to be part of that
Yes.
window. But compared to the current situation, we're seeing a different scenario. So, one, because the content is mostly reruns, because of the quarantine, no one can produce live programs or update
Mm-hmm.
programs like the Provinciano,
Uh-huh.
Itbulaga, or
Yeah.
Showtime. You
Mhm.
can't go out and shoot those shows. So what's happening is the networks have had to rely on reruns,
Yeah.
which
But people are still
means
watching them, right?
people are still watching them, but advertisers are not too keen in terms of uh, putting content up or putting advertising investment. Also because the second issue, people are not able to really go out and buy
Mm-hmm.
certain
Yeah.
products at their leisure. So, and they're not sure if the supplies or stocks would be there in the supermarkets
Okay.
if the consumer actually went and decided to buy. So, we've seen about an 8% drop
Sorry,
in advertising.
an 8%.
8%.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're looking at around, if I'm not mistaken, about a 200 billion industry
Okay.
a year.
Mm-hmm.
So 8% is a huge dip in terms of investment. And we're looking at categories like entertainment, leisure,
that's right.
Automotive, travel, and those things have really, and even quick service restaurants, fast food outlets. They've been very much affected by the quarantine.
In short, the products and services that you would normally consume outside of the house,
correct,
will have to stop, because even if you are so you're so hungry for that burger that you are seeing advertised, correct, you just can't consume it.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
Okay.
So, but there are winners as well.
Oh,
so while we see a dip, it's not as bad because certain categories have sort of taken up the space. So, disinfectants, okay, alcohol wouldn't normally be advertised. But they take some brands have taken advantage of the situation or the opportunity, if I might say so. So they're advertising like crazy. Health and wellness, so vitamins and supplements have also taken up the space that's been vacated by certain categories. Personal care is still very much active because that's something you need, especially so that you don't get too depressed while you're inside your house. So you have your standard personal care product, shampoo, disinfectant soaps also there. So those are some of the sort of the winners in this quarantine stage among advertisers.
Jay, the term the new normal has been bandied about so often right now. What will stay on, as we enter this new normal phase of our lives right now, in terms of both, again, media platforms and as far as the advertisers are concerned?
I think TV would stay on and would actually have a stronger position in the minds of marketers and advertisers, depending, however, on the type of content that will be available after the quarantine. Music and radio formats, whether it's on traditional radio sets or online, would be top still. And then, of course, digital will really have a new place in the hearts and mind of all consumers across all age groups after this quarantine.
All right. And advertisers now. You mentioned that you're getting different kinds of advertisers these days. What about that scenario post-quarantine?
Ad scenarios, I think we'll still see a wait-and-see attitude when it comes to travel and entertainment. FMCG will bounce back as if nothing happened, I think. So they'll be the first to jump back on the ship.
Everybody will need a shampoo, whatever the situation.
Yes. And then the quick service restaurants will try to recover their losses. So expect them to bounce back with a newfound interest in either promoting a socially distant friendly establishment or focusing more on their takeout and delivery products.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the
last and also online banking. Online banking will be a major category, I feel, after the quarantine, because they now see a lot of opportunity in the financial technology sector, given the experience over the last 6 weeks.
O yan mga kaibigan, part 1 ho yan. Unfortunately, we can't play part 2 just yet dahil mayroong mga balita ho tayo parating. Tomorrow, abangan po natin 9 to 10 bukas, Sunday. Ayan, part 2 ng very interesting conversation again. If you're interested in that field and if you work in that field, yung media, advertising, and production. Ayan po, some thoughts coming from Jay Bautista. Managing Director of Kantar Media in the Philippines.